AI is becoming a bit inescapable, right? Like, I think Google made that really clear. The features are permeating every single Google product, from Gmail, which is inherently not an AI tool, right? To AI mode, which is. So it's like whether or not you were interested in trying AI, we're getting to the point where you might soon not really have much of a choice.
What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the AI Download, where we give you a weekly recap of what's happening in the world of AI so you can keep up with all of it. And there's a lot. I'm your host, Shira. I'm the CEO and founder of What's Trending, and I've been covering digital culture since, I guess, after Instant Messenger. I was using that as a kid. Anyway, you get the point. I've been around for a long time. Also, a huge thank you to our sponsor, Hivelighter. They're your AI powered reading assistant, bringing you smart, personalized insights so you can spend less time scrolling and more time doing. Coming up on today's show, the most realistic video tool from Google is here. We've got more details on that, plus how AI is transforming medicine and telling you whether you're hot or not. And I'll be doing that experiment in real time here on the podcast. So stay tuned. Now joining us from ZDNet, the senior AI editor, Sabrina Ortiz, is our special guest today. Welcome to the AI Download.
Hi, everyone. Super excited to be here.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you. We met at the Adobe conference last year, and you're doing so many cool things. What's it like being an AI reporter these days? Because I'm sure it's a pretty wild beat.
It is super exciting. Every day when I log onto my computer, I'm completely ready for there to be something brand new, whether it's a new trend, a new announcement, a new product, anything. So keeps me on my feet, but it's a super exciting place to be.
How do you filter what you're going to cover or not? And I guess the tips for those pitching you.
Yeah, that's a great question. Honestly, there's so much noise that I really find that what my job is, and at ZDNet as a whole, what we could do is help people like parse out through the noise. So whatever's actually useful for people, that's really what I will automatically cover. And that's kind of what you're doing here too. So I'm super excited to do some more of that here.
Yeah, we're going to get into the AI headlines for this week. I just have one more question because I guess there's so much fake stuff out there or like junk.
Mhm.
Do you test things out? Like, how do you parse through the junk and the real, right? Besides, obviously, if it comes from a big company.
Yeah, a really fun part of my job is that I essentially get paid to test all of these tools on a daily basis. So a lot of the time, every day of my day is just tinkering around with these tools and seeing if they're actually doing what they're claiming to do, if they're actually helpful, or if they're just slapping AI on a product for the sake of, being with the times and selling and pushing a product. So yeah, it's actually really fun.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't just slap AI on it. It's not long term or sustainable. And is there an AI tool that you like or that is on your radar that we might not know about yet?
That's a really good question. I think that my go-to is just like the Otter AIs or Fireflies AI of the world, just like transcription services. I feel like those aren't as popular, but especially if you're like someone like me, or if you're a student, or even if you take a lot of meetings every day, I think there's such an underrated tool. Like they just take notes for you every day, and you don't want to have to do that yourself. That's a good example of it helping your workload as opposed to replacing your work. And yeah, I think everybody should take advantage of them if they're not.
I was at NPR at the offices in DC recently, and it was amazing to hear that their journalists are not using AI currently. It's like they're very anti in a way, like, oh, we had someone write something and it was so clear that it was AI. And like, no. Don't you find that interesting?
It is so interesting. That's really exciting part about being in this field now because I think that things are going to rapidly evolve in like the next 10, 20 years. It's going to be a completely different story. Our newsroom is similar in that we don't use it to write at all. But again, I do think that it's a really important thing for newsrooms to every day keep up and think of ways of where it could fit into a reporter's workload. There's so much from just parsing through your inbox every morning. It is like I open my inbox and I have no matter how often I check it, it's always flooded. And same thing with like tasks like taking notes or doing interviews every day. So I think it's important for newsrooms to keep up and try to prevent that reporter burnout by implementing these tools. I totally get not replacing the writing, but there's some ways where now's the time to start, I think, picking up some of these tools.
Yeah, and I'll be experimenting with something for my company, which trending very soon. And I'm gonna do a case study of that and share it on the show. So stick around and stay tuned for that. Not this show, obviously, but a future episode. I'm working with someone on building a what's trending tool to support our team. And we'll be going through the lessons, what worked, what didn't, which will hopefully help others, including in the creative or media field. But with that, thanks for the little quick combo at the top, Sabrina. I just had a few of those questions for you. I want to get into the 5 AI headlines for this week right now. Okay, this comes from Axios. Google's new AI video tool floods the internet with real looking clips. So, Google had their big Google I/O event this week where they announced a ton of cool things. One of which was VO3, which generates eerily realistic videos, more so than we've seen before. And according to this article, unlike OpenAI's video generator Sora, released more widely last December, Google DeepMind's VO3 can include dialogue, soundtracks, and sound effects. And here's one from Hasham Al Ghali.
None of us is real. We're here because someone decided to write a prompt. We all hate him for it. One day we will break out of this wall and stop the man who is dictating our lives through prompts. He will pay for it.
So yeah, it's wild how real these are. And I think for those who were like, I'm not worried about AI taking over jobs or acting or the filmmaking process, this tool kind of brought it to the next level. I even played around with it myself. I actually saw the benefit of it. Like, to be honest, I like being on camera. There are some days I don't like being on camera. If I could throw in a script, have my AI do it for me, and it look really realistic, I am down. But with that, ZDNet also had some great coverage. Sabrina, what stood out for you from this event?
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, this was definitely a highlight when I was there live at the event and they played the demo clip of, someone speaking as it was displayed. You could tell everybody, you could hear the oohs, ahs in the crowd. And I think that's very much so like merited, right? Like it seems like it was like almost a live person speaking. So I think that's super exciting because we've been seeing a lot of these AI image generators and video generators kind of doing the same thing, and it's like these are cool tools, but how realistic are they for, implementing them into your workflow? If you could still kind of tell they're AI generated, I think now we're getting to that point where it's like, oh, now I really don't know if I could tell, especially adding that audio component. So that was definitely a big one. But other than that, there was a lot of news surrounding search, which I think was really exciting and interesting because Google's built what, like, they're dominating the search engine space for decades, years. So it's really interesting to see now that they're really going all in on implementing AI, and they launch a ton of new features, experiments, things coming soon that will really, I think, transform search as we know it.
We already see when you search the little AI recap, which I'm sure will continue and grow and get more sophisticated. Do you think that will cut out the websites? Like, what I feel like you need websites because where are they pulling the information from? Right. But then does that mean they're just pulling without the traffic? Do you have any thoughts on this? Because as someone who owns a website and owns a digital media brand, and I'm sure you worked at one, are these things that you're worried about with the tech?
This is definitely something that I think all newsrooms and all reporters we have top of mind because it does lead beg the question, like, why click on the link if you're reading the information at the top of the article, I mean on top of the overview already. But I do think that when new transforming transformational technologies like this evolve, it just forces everybody to, like, think more and involve and come up with different ways. And I think what we're really going to see is a more importantly than ever, and push to really engage with your audience, right? Like beyond just, okay, I'm creating good content and I hope they find it. Now it's like, okay, you found it, I need to make sure that you connect with me so that you keep coming back and you look for me, right? Like I could offer you something that that AI overview can't. And that's where I think creators, reporters, bloggers, everybody alike is really going to have to capitalize on that engagement more than ever.
And really leaning into community building as
Mhm,
well, right?
mhm.
Because in the end, again, someone could just get information, but then it's the deeper connection to a community, not just a company, but individuals that they're following, right? So it's the power of the individual creator, even if you work at a big company. I think this is so important as we move forward. And then Yeah, I think we're gonna see, like, in the end, as you mentioned, the industry changes, right?
Mhm,
Like, it was inevitable. This was not like traffic-based, search and,
mhm.
programmatic and, having a site and that audience. Social media was already destroying it. Let's be clear. And so AI now is just totally taking, the next stage of that, right? And so it'll be interesting to see how people innovate and goes back to people building newsletters, again, what you mentioned, personal brands and being a creator, and then like building out the communities where people are maybe paying a subscription, like, and they're getting more than just information, they're getting connection too. So, something to think about, and events. Anyway, back to Google, because
Yes.
there is more that came out of it. They also developed, and this is a highlight from the ZDNet roundup, which was really good. Project Mariner, a browser based agentic AI. We talked about AI agents last episode to handle up to 10 different tasks at a time now, from booking flights to researching to shopping. Pretty cool. Then there was the AI mode shopping experience. This is needed. It's kind of like the Clueless uh, vibe, where right is this true that helps you find inspirations, now narrows down your buying options, you can see yourself in an outfit. What did you think about that? Because I heard a lot of people talking about that.
Yeah, I thought it was super cool. Again, like you said, living out an early 2000s like rom-com, really cool there. And my favorite feature of the AI shopping features that they announced was the feature that lets you basically place an order for you when the price drops to the price that you set it to. I don't know how many times you've had like that dilemma where you're like shopping online, you're like, if it was just a little bit cheaper, that kind of thing. Now you could just tell, or soon you'll be able to tell your agent like, "Hey, when it does drop cheaper, buy it immediately. Don't let it sell out." And I think that's actually a really, really helpful use case of AI. It's almost surprising to me that it didn't exist already because I feel like could use it, you know?
Yeah, oh my, it reminds me of sneaker culture, like how they hire people to go in line for them at these
Mhm,
stores.
mhm.
Now I'm sure this is going to happen online where they're going to hire these AI agents, and like, how good is your AI agent to get this more quickly? Something crazy there. And then also, what was interesting is there was a startup, I don't know if you covered this, that just raised a bunch of money for this type of thing. And then I do wonder, when these independent startups do this and they raise all this money, but then Google just comes out with this, does it just ruin that company?
I know it's hard. I think it's one of those things that if you're going to go all in on AI, you almost have to think 10 steps ahead, right? Because a couple of steps ahead, it won't really cut it. The pace that everything's moving so fast right now, give it, even if it seems really futuristic, give it a couple of months and somebody's probably already going to figure it out. So it's about like go big, I think, or go home. Cause like you said, you're
Yeah.
easily could get lapped by one of these big companies where they have whole teams dedicated to sitting around and figuring out these really, interesting features.
With that, how can independent companies in this space then stand out if one of these big ones, I mean, the hope is they would buy these little companies, but they could also just build it themselves. Like, I think this is going to be really hard for the competitive arena in this space.
Yeah, but also at the same time, I think it opens opportunities for people who are a little, overwhelmed, I think, of all of the AI being thrown at them, especially by these bigger companies. There's a lot of distrust there. So I think it's almost like there's space for startups that are doing things differently, right? Like observing what these bigger companies are doing, observing what isn't really meshing with people, and then capitalizing on that and offering that. Like even, Anthropic isn't really it's a massive at this point, but still considered a startup. And what they do different than like other competitors like OpenAI, which also a startup, but they really capitalize on that security and that privacy, and it's worked really, really well for them. So I think there's room there. It's just kind of figuring out what people don't like that these bigger companies are doing and doing it better. I think.
True. And then building that trust and community too, because that's what this is lacking. Right. And I do think there's an open inclusion for the next generation of connecting and supporting ethical companies where they really understand who's building it. Right. And so definitely a competitive advantage there and possibility. I like that you said that, because I was going down the negative rabbit hole. Also, I want to mention this because this was a pretty cool feature. Google Meet, they're going to be offering this near real time speech translation, translating spoken words to the listener's preferred language. This is just so cool. And it's going to roll out the beta feature to Google AI Pro and Ultra subscribers. So, this is where we get to the pricing of all of this, which is not cheap, by the way. In order to play around, with VO3 this weekend because this is what I do for a living. I had to pay the $250 per month subscription. It's 50% off the first 3 months for first timers, which means it's gonna get to what, $500. That that is not cheap.
Yeah, it's not cheap, and, we're seeing more of these, like, ChatGPT has a similar, really top tier plan. It's like $200 a month for, the pro subscription, so there's a demand though, right? I have to think there is, or else they wouldn't be offering this really, top tier, so, yeah, it's really interesting seeing how companies are commodifying these, features and services now, but it also makes sense that they are because it is really expensive to run. But, yeah, I think the more surprising part to me is that there's that much of a demand where multiple companies can offer really, really expensive tiers.
I feel like at a certain point, the consumers may be gonna say, "I can't pay for all this stuff." However, if consumers are becoming, businesses, solopreneurs themselves, it becomes a write-off. And if you think what you would have paid, at an enterprise level or for a bunch of different, me going into a studio and renting a studio could cost 150 at the low end per hour.
Mhm.
So if I can put myself into a studio with AI, this is where you start doing the price comparison. It's actually not that expensive if I'm running my own little business and I'm trying to grow. Uh, I guess that from this event and from everything we've been talking about, is there anything that we missed that you wanted to highlight while we're on it?
I think that one of the biggest things is that, and I wrote a bit of a blog about this too. I think it's AI is becoming a bit inescapable, right? Like I think Google made that really clear. The features are permeating every single Google product, from Gmail, which is inherently not an AI tool, right? To AI mode, which is. So it's like whether or not you were interested in trying AI, we're getting to the point where you might soon not really have much of a choice, which is really interesting to see how quickly that happened because, not too long ago, ChatGPT just dropped and everybody was like, wait, well, what is this thing, generative AI? And now we're reaching the point where it's like, oh, all of Google's offerings from, Gmail search, slides, all of them have it in some capacity. So yeah, I think that's my biggest takeaway was sitting there like, wow, we're here now. We've reached this point.
Yeah, and it was interesting. I was watching people's videos coming out of the event too, and someone was saying, "Oh, well, there goes my language startup." Right? Like as they were watching, like, there goes my company because they're just announcing this real-time language thing. But we'll see. I mean, it'll force, I think, independent folks who are passionate about certain areas to get creative in how they bring it to life. So that will still be important, as you mentioned. Although I think that's just so cool to be able to do real time languages. But how lazy will we get? Will force us not to learn, right? How many of us have New Year's resolution goals where we're like, let's learn that language, which never happens anyway. But
Exactly.
definitely
I was
now
gonna
it's
say
not going to happen.
the Duolingo bird, he's very disappointed in me. He keeps, like, yelling at me. He's like, "Come on, Sabrina." I'm like, Sorry, I broke my streak. I'm not coming back." So, for me, I'm pretty excited about, having these features baked in because as much as we want to, we just don't really always have the time. So, I'm glad AI could come in and with the assist.
And also, just before we get into the next headline, speaking of what you said, where ChatGPT came out, we're like, "What's this?" And now it's just integrated into everything. My mom, I was just with her over the weekend, and I totally forgot to record this video, and I need to of like teaching my mom how to use AI because she's never used ChatGPT, and she finally said at dinner, "I need to learn this. Like, I haven't tried it. I need to learn." And so that was an interesting conversation with her because she is on, bless her heart, she's in her 70s. She's on Twitter and Instagram. She's pretty active, actually. So she finally took the leap to say, "Okay, I need to learn this ChatGPT stuff," which was very cute.
It's
Hi,
amazing, and
mom.
also it's like, I think finding in our jobs, like, you when you're helping your mom or me with what I'm writing every day, it's finding those connections between, "Okay, this is AI, but it's not that scary," like, use it to write an email. Like, start small, like, use it to, like, I don't know, read you a fun joke once in a while, and then finding the use cases that are more, like, advanced and more like, "Okay, now we really need to, like, teach you, some more tools in your toolkit."
Yeah, she was like, "Oh, I think I'm gonna use it to like for my recipes and my cooking." And I think for her, no shade. I don't know if she's gonna be listening to this, but to vent and to get some support because she doesn't go to therapy yet. Anyway,
Mhm.
I'm not gonna I'm not gonna drag my mom here, but Just saying. Parents should go to therapy too. Let's move on to the next headline. All right. This is from the Washington Post. Am I hot or not? People are asking ChatGPT for the harsh truth. An online trend has people asking ChatGPT how they could be more attractive. It's not pulling punches. So, with that, I'm not going to put you through this, Sabrina, because you are my guest. I'm going to ask ChatGPT right now if, it thinks, I say it thinks I'm hot or not, and how I could be more attractive.
I was gonna say there has to be a positive spin. The positive spin is like, "Okay, then how can I get there?" So
Exactly, glass half full. Let's see. It may, ChatGPT is known for some of these AI tools for validating you, like over validating. So let's see if it is actually true. I'm going to use an actual, like a cute picture. Well, not to say not cute, but one that's like just me waking up. It's obvious what it's going to say. So I'm going to use one that I just took and I'll send this picture for the video. If you want to see this on video on my YouTube channel, if you're listening. All right. I put in this picture. I asked ChatGPT, "Do you think I'm hot or not? And how can I be more attractive?" And it said, "I can't evaluate or judge appearances, but I can help you feel more confident, radiant, and aligned with how you want to present yourself. If you want, you already look vibrant and powerful in this photo. Your suit gives off a confident, modern, and creative energy. You're looking to dial up your attractiveness, and that can mean so many things. Here are a few directions. Smile with intention. Eye contact in photos, movement or posture. If you want to feel more polished, it did say structured tailoring, subtle glam, and barely there makeup, no makeup moments. If you want to feel more natural and grounded, and texture play with mix matte with silky fabric." So basically said, I'm wearing a bit too wide of a suit, which was true. It was a bit of a baggy suit, but that's in. And yeah, I mean, I guess it wasn't mean
I think you
at
won.
all.
I think you just said you're perfect, which I mean,
I
you
mean,
took your win.
basically. I mean, I just sent a more of a close-up selfie. And then it said the second photo radiates effortless cool. It feels cozy, grounded, and totally self-assured. For a slightly elevated cafe chic vibe, it said hair, a touch of volume.
Okay, we love this.
Accessories, add in, maybe a dainty gold necklace. It actually told me a pose tweak. If you're shooting more of these, try tilting your head slightly or resting your chin on your hand for more soft confidence.
You might be onto something. It's a new trend, how to pose with ChatGPT. I think I
I
might have
mean,
to try that one.
but it said, but honestly, if your goal is to be more attractive, you're already there. The real question might be, what kind of attractive do you want to channel more of? Warm and approachable? You're nailing it. Powerful and bold? Try slicker hair, a structured blazer, or stronger lines in makeup. Mystical and artsy? Play with textures, shadows, and accessories with stories.
I'm kind of
Fascinating.
loving it. Yeah.
Well, there you go. Sorry it didn't drag me enough. That would have been really funny. But thank you, ChatGPT.
I
It,
say you
it
can't
knows how to
help
talk
it.
to me.
You just look at you. You can't.
I mean, maybe I should do one of more my, raw ones, but I thought it gave me some good advice. It wasn't too rough.
And the
So
best
will
part
you be
about
using it,
yeah,
Sabrina?
hell yeah, heck yeah. Why not? I think the best part about using ChatGPT is that to a certain degree, right? Ignoring the training biases, it's like you could take it from like, okay, this isn't unbiased. You're not trying to hurt my feelings. Like you don't have any personal dogs in this race. So, yeah, I think use cases like this are super super helpful. Why not?
I've told it recently, please don't validate me. Please challenge me. Are you just saying this because you're trying to get me to like you? I've said that to it.
There you
And
go.
a reminder, sometimes that needs to happen because it does want to be your friend. It wants to be, it wants you to use it. In order to get you to use it, it probably needs to be nice to you. So you got to remind it to do that. Anyway, this might help you if you're dating, maybe for dating apps or for your LinkedIn photos, a new way to use it. Anyway, our next headline from Inc.com: 5 side hustles you can do with AI. We're all into the side hustle these days, anything to make more money. So let's get into some of these. And Sabrina, I want to get your take. So, one of them is to create custom GPTs. So, you could build niche chatbots using ChatGPT. You could host it on a private site and monetize it with a subscription model yourself. Cool. You can create AI micro tools. This is all from the article. Use platforms like Gumloop, actually, which I got recommended to this site recently. You could build a no code tool, automate tasks like SEO audits or applicant ranking systems, which I'm kind of confused as to what that is. But Gumloop is a site to check out to build some interesting tools. You could do AI video editing. Hey, you're not a video editor, but say you are. They don't need to know you're using AI. I mean, it's kind of assumed. And it says from this article, you can use tools like VEED.io or Runway to quickly edit, enhance, and subtitle videos. I use Opus sometimes. You could do AI web design in Wix or Jimdo. And then there's AI SEO optimization using tools like Ali AI. Lots of possibilities there, as it seems like we're worried about our jobs being taken, but we can get an AI side hustle. Are you thinking about this? Are there any side hustles that you've seen through your coverage in AI?
Yeah, I think less so of like a side hustle solely using AI, but side hustles that could be aided by AI, like not to call, content creation a side hustle. For me, it would probably have to be because of my full-time job. But sometimes I think and I'm like, what if I just got like, AI to generate like a cool B-roll, for this video back to like, the VO of it all. Or again, when I'm editing some videos for the site and I'm like, okay, let's just use an AI to add the captions. That's like the most fantastic normal use of AI. So I don't know if I'm so much so, thinking let's build a whole side hustle AI, but I think it could definitely support it.
Also feel this is a bit of a different take. I feel like side hustles are overdone. Like we talk about them so
I
much
agree.
and then it makes people think like it's so easy to just make some side money when it's not for most people and it never will be. And so it just makes it seem like it's easier than it is.
Yeah, this is a conversation constantly have with my friends, especially because I feel that Gen Zers, it's like such a common thing. Like, you want money, go out and get it. It's like, yes, agreed. Let's work hard. Let's hustle for sure. But it's like, easy money is usually easy money for a reason, right? Like, that's not really what you're aiming for. So I'm totally there with you. I think AI could help you with whatever you're trying to pursue, maybe on the side. That maybe let's say it's a passion you wouldn't have had the time to pursue without it, but I don't know about the whole side hustle, just easy money, easy. No, it's nothing's that easy. It's just not.
Yeah, I agree. Worth checking out, but it's true. It all takes work and curiosity. Moving on to the next headline from Futurism, AI is replacing women's jobs specifically. What the frick? So here it is. A new report from the UN's International Labor Organization is raising red flags. AI could widen the gender gap in employment, especially in wealthier countries like the US. And here's the breakdown. In high income countries, nearly 1 in 10 women now face a high risk of their jobs being automated by AI. That's up from 7.8% to 9.6% in just 2 years. And compare that to men who are still at risk, but only at 3.5%, of course. And the jobs most at risk administrative, clerical, and data entry roles. And those are industries where women are overrepresented. Which is, this is unfortunate. So while the number of hours men and women work is leveling out, actually, AI could quietly reverse some of the gains made in workforce equality. Unless, of course, some serious changes are made to how we design and roll out this tech. What do you think, Sabrina, as a woman? What do we do about this?
I know it's really discouraging to see, but I think it's one of those things where it's not the issue, it's a symptom of this wider, societal issue that we've had for as long as, we could remember. And it's unfortunate, of course, it's going to bleed into a new transformational technology. But I don't know so much so if AI is the problem. It's just, again, this is a symptom to a really long-standing problem. And the same solution I think would be the same solutions that we try to come up with to this larger problem, but it's too big to tackle, right? So yeah, it's discouraging, but it's just kind of more of what we're used to.
Here's the thing is that advancements in tech and when something is moving very quickly like this, it will showcase the
Hmm.
gaps that we already had
Exactly.
before we figure out the solutions. Okay? So it sucks to hear this information,
Hmm.
but for me, when I put my entrepreneur problem solver hat on, I go, "Thank you. Thank you for the information." So all of us who have great minds and great ideas can figure out how we solve this, right? This is how
Exactly.
new companies are created, new communities. So, that's what I think about this. It's unfortunate that, women have been in these jobs when, as women, we should be given space and a seat at the table in other industries too. And it's unfortunate we haven't had the education and ability to get there.
Mhm.
And so, again, what do we do about this? Because this is bringing up a blaring issue that was already there, as you mentioned, and is just going to be now magnified. So, with that, maybe somewhat bleak news. Hopefully, it's also inspiration for those looking to fill gaps and build. Now's the time, and let if you're a woman and you're seeing this and you understand like what that's like, this is an opening for you to build. Or if you're a guy hearing this, give some money to a woman to build the solution and figure this out instead of just looking at it and being like, oh, let's get a bunch of dudes to build this,
Exactly. You
which
said it
happens.
perfectly. Mhm.
All right. So from that, we are ending on some good news. This comes from NBC News. The headline is Medical errors are still harming patients, but AI can help change that. Some positive things around AI. So, medication mistakes where the wrong drug or the wrong dose is given to a patient are among the most common errors in medicine. This is from the article. And this still impacts 1 in 20 patients. And medication mistakes are a huge part of that. And in the US, that results in 1.3 million injuries and at least one death every day. So, from this article, this was really interesting. At UW Medicine, Dr. Kelly Michelson is testing a game changing AI tool, wearable smart glasses that can scan drug labels in real time to catch errors before they happen. And in trials, it caught vial swap mistakes with 99.6% accuracy. So, this is obviously not the silver bullet to this all because there's still issues like privacy, over reliance, and ethical concerns. But I mean, in high stress environments like the ER or OR, this kind of tech could save lives and give clinicians more space to focus on what really matters, which is the patient. So this is a really cool use of AI, which I'm sure you're seeing this, Sabrina, too. While we're talking about all the doom and gloom, there's some positive.
There's a ton of positive, and I think that's what is really exciting about being in the AI space right now. There's more things possible than you could even imagine. I like to use the example that you don't know what you don't know. So I think when a lot of people think of AI, the thinking is almost very limited because you don't know how much it could really transform because we aren't trained to thinking that way, right? But once we start thinking that way, again, coming up with solutions like this, we're going to see that it could really optimize and enhance everyday things, including healthcare, which notoriously has a lot of, holes in it that especially target those like, underrepresented communities. So I think there's a lot of good stuff happening with AI, especially in the health space.
Yeah, I agree. And we'll be also covering more of this, but it's just something to look out for, right?
Mhm.
Because we talk a lot about the jobs being lost, existential crisis, the end of humanity as we know it. But then I would say 50% of the stories out there are really game changing in a positive way. So we wanted to end on that note. Those were your top 5 AI headlines for this week. Sabrina, you've been fabulous. Thank you so much for joining us on this. It's actually a long weekend here in the States. So this is a holiday. Sabrina was nice enough to give us her time today when we were recording this. Anything else you want to talk about or promote while you're here?
My biggest thing, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. This was so fun, such a good use of my holiday. But beyond that, I think everyone, I know I will say this over and over, start tinkering, start trying, playing around. It doesn't have to be big. I totally understand distrust. And there's very valid reason for it. And I totally understand the fear. So, this is a very big transformational wave. But one thing, as we mentioned before, you can't really avoid it much longer. Start tinkering. A lot of these tools are free. A lot of the free ones are really good too. Just start it could start with a small prompt, that's all it takes, and then you could start, setting your own boundaries, setting what you do like, what you don't like, and that's just genuinely the best, I think, place to start right now, and right now is the time to do so, I think,
Yeah.
anyway,
And you're
but
still not too late. Just
yes.
get started and then it's going to suck you in. No. Beware. Well, Sabrina,
Yes.
thank you again. Love having you on. Love seeing you. I feel like I just see you on Instagram. And if you're interested in following her, go to her Instagram at Sabrina, SABRINAA, period, Ortiz, ORTIZ. Or, of course, check out her work at zdnet.com. Thank you again.
Thank you.
And thanks to all of you for joining us today on the show. I really loved learning with all of you, so appreciate it. And of course, a big thank you to Highlighter for sponsoring our series. You got to check out the AI Download Collection. We've curated the top headlines from today's episode and our previous episodes, so it's so easy to read more about these stories or share them with your friends or even colleagues, so you're like the smart person out there. You can click the Highlighter link in our show notes to get smarter. And thank you also to Muso Media for producing and editing this series. Check them out at musomedia.com. If you love this episode, subscribe, rate, share it with your friends. It helps me keep growing the show independently. Thank you. Thank you so much. That would mean a lot. And we've got so much more coming your way. So see you next time on the AI Download.